Mr. Look.
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. And also, there's no delay, so I can actually hear you perfectly tonight.
Nice. That's a good start.
Yes,
All
I'm
right.
glad it's a lot bit of improvement from last week's disaster for me.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. But hey, to make up for it, you got a lot more screen time this time.
Oh, marvellous. Marvellous. I mean,
Yeah.
could talk about my thoughts on the Sonic X episodes and the IDW comics, but I'm putting together a personal blog video where I get to express my thoughts on them.
Fair enough. Well, again, if you want to say that, you're welcome to do so. I mean, it's
No,
just
no,
a
no, it's fine. I don't think the audience would want to go hear about what we already talked about.
fair enough. Fair enough. I guess I'll just advertise it. So, hi, folks on the stream. You heard it. Luke has written his thoughts on the episodes in the comic from last week in a blog. So I'll post the link below, so you can check it out there. Because
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I'll try and get the video out. Maybe like this time next week if there's no stream going on, so the audience have something to watch.
fair enough. Well, I'll upload this one next week as well. I'll just
Yeah.
record it now. Yeah, so we're doing it a bit differently this time. We're just pre-recording it and just having a thought on some random games or stuff we wanted to talk about. We're just being more casual this time because I don't have time to animate any skits. So, look, you wanted to talk about He-Man, Master of the Universe.
Yes,
Week.
being as they brought back He-Man in a animated Netflix series, I thought it'd be nice to talk about my personal experiences with He-Man as one of my favourite 80s nostalgic cartoon serials. I'll probably talk a bit about each versions of the cartoons and probably the movie before going over into the controversial and Netflix series. I mean, I remembered how epic it was when I first saw it as a child in the 80s as the ultimate fantasy experience of good versus evil and magic, and how this guy puts a sword in the sky and turns into this big buff man.
Yeah, Conan Barbarian for kids. Nice.
Yeah, I find it a bit funny, really, that because of animation limitations, they kind of made the models for Prince Adam and He-Man look exactly alike, and no one can figure out they look the same, despite them having the same hair and body build.
I guess context is really helps. I guess people just really can't imagine silly little Prince Adam to do all these heroics because he does change his behavior a little, right?
Well, when he becomes He-Man, he does act a bit, does throw in the occasional joke, and in a way, it's kind of like with Superman, how all he has to do is put on a pair of glasses, and no one could figure out that he's Superman. Like, you don't see them in the same room together.
Exactly. Although in the Silver Age, he had like a ton of tricks to do appear in the same room together. Like he had all kinds of holograms and all kinds of trickery to trick people because they
Yeah,
love doing that plot.
yeah, like in one episode, Skeletor captures Prince Adam, so Man-at-Arms creates a robot version of He-Man to trick him.
Exactly, that sort of stuff. I love that. That's great. But yeah, I have to say, I never watched He-Man, any of its incarnations, so you're going to do most of the talking.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, like, if anyone knows about the epic fantasy series, because the 80s was pretty much the ultimate decade for the rise of the fantasy genre. I think it probably started with, like, probably Dungeons and Dragons and its popularity, and probably, like, Conan comics and stories, and then it devolved into, like, other things, like fantasy movies and fantasy TV shows and that, and they went into the cartoons as well.
Yeah, Willow with George Lucas' attempt to do it. The only, unlike Star Wars and Indiana Jones, he failed at that for once.
The funny thing about Willow, it's kind of like how I imagined the Hobbit movies would be like if it was made at the time, because Warwick Davis would have been brilliant as Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, definitely, sure.
I suppose I have memories of like when I was a kid. I remembered like when I was a kid in the 90s in South End Seafront, we had this kind of theme park place called Never Neverland, which has all these like animatronic things and little things. It's kind of like what you got in Efteling with the animal village thing. And in one of the attractions, there was like a He-Man thing, where you go in and you got this like little light show of the He-Man toys being operated as you've got this epic narrator telling about the epic battle of Eternia and Castle Grayskull between the forces of He-Man and the forces of Skeletor. And you got this bit in the middle where you got like He-Man and Skeletor's action figures wailing on each other.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a bit sad when like they closed the theme park down, so you couldn't even see it anymore.
Ah, oh well. Nothing good lasts forever.
Yeah, and speaking of the action figures, I do recall getting a few of the figures. I remember getting Skeletor on Panther. I don't have it anymore. All I remember doing with him is I ripped his legs off for some reason. I don't know why. It's when as a kid you get an action figure and you somehow want to dismantle it for some reason.
I only did it by accident. Like, I loved the Action Man action figures back then, and I had one with a parachute, so I threw him out of the window, and the parachute didn't work. It landed in the snow, and then still broke off its leg. And from that moment, I hated Action Man. What a pathetic loser you are! You can't even land in the snow without losing your leg.
I think I've got something similar like with He-Man. He's got this like weird contraption on his back. It's like a whirligig thing, and I don't know. I probably like threw him down the corridor to see if he would fly, but he probably didn't.
Good times.
Yeah, and then after that, there was they made another cartoon based on it called The New Adventures of He-Man, which I wasn't really a fan of. It's kind of like He-Man in name only, as it's a bit like, I think it's cashing on the popularity of Star Wars, as it does have He-Man and Skeletor in it, but that's it. But they kind of don't look exactly like how they looked in the 80s. I mean, they made He-Man look a bit more like a swashbuckler or something. And with Skeletor, it was a bit weird with him because they gave him eyeballs, which made him look really goofy. And instead of giving him that "Now get you, He-Man" voice, they kind of made him sound a bit more Shakespearean.
Okay, man, that was a good impression of Skeletor, by the way. I like that.
He-Man.
Yeah.
In a way, the characters look like bootleg figures. Like, you know, when you got bootleg figures, they don't look exactly like the actual figures and are wearing weird costumes and that. But yeah, it wasn't terrible. But if it was like some kind of Star Wars like show, I probably would have been more invested in it.
Fair enough, but this isn't the 2000 show you're talking about, right?
No, this was another show between the original 80s Masters of the Universe and the 2002 remake called The New Adventures of He-Man.
Oh, I didn't know there was another one, but okay.
Oh yeah, it was very obscure. Not many people talk of it. It was considered like the black sheep of the various incarnations of He-Man. I think it was released in like the tail end of the 80s or the beginning of the 90s. And it was animated in like that anime style kind of anime you get in 80s cartoons. And instead of saying like talking about the powers of Grayskull, they were talking about the light of the magic and the way of the good or something.
Yeah, but considering it's at the end of the 80s, I'm surprised it wasn't like He-Man children or He-Man babies, because that was the trend at the time, right? Like Scooby-Doo were kids, and
yeah,
Yogi Bear became kids, and Tiny Toons.
Oh god, yeah.
Everyone turned to babies.
Eternia babies, yeah. Oh god. See a little child like Skeletor going around going, yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah, going back to 80s He-Man, being as like it's a power fantasy for males. Of course, they did make a fantasy epic series, a sister series for girls called She-Ra, which I only remember vaguely about because it was a bit on the girly side. But I did watch it. I recall watching a few episodes. I didn't find it that bad, and like it had a connection to He-Man because they both call upon the powers of Grayskull. I never even realised that they're both brother and sister.
Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that was revealed in some sort of a TV movie or something called The Secret of the Sword, which I don't even remember. Don't think I ever watched, actually. And they also released a Christmas special where these two kids end up in Eternia and they tell Orko and all the other characters about the magic of Christmas, and they hung out with Skeletor and they tried to make him nice.
Ah, that's sweet.
Yeah, that's where the "I am not nice" meme came from.
Oh, okay. So I accidentally referred to the meme without knowing about it. How good of me. But alright,
Yeah.
nice.
Okay. I think we can move on to the 2002 series, which I think is actually one of my favorite versions of the cartoon because it was a lot less cheesy than the 80s version, and also it delved more into the lore, like the origins of Grayskull's power, the true origins of Skeletor, where it turns out to be a warlord named Keldor who had his face melted off with acid, and also the true origins of the sword of Grayskull, which was forged by its ancient king, King Grayskull, and that when Adam calls upon the powers of Grayskull, it's not just the castle Grayskull itself; it's also upon the powers of King Grayskull himself, which kind of like in some sort of a Arthurian legend kind of way.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I love the 2000 series because it takes the genuinity of the 80s, but then it's a little bit more self-aware about it. But not as
Yeah.
self-aware as current day, where everything is deconstructed and broken. But it still keeps that genuine energy of the original.
Oh, exactly. Because I loved how in the beginning it looks like it's going to be exactly the same as the 80s cartoon, but then halfway through the intro, Skeletor attacks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and also I like how Adam and He-Man look exactly different this time. So he looks like a genuine kid, and also they made Cringer mute because he was a little bit annoying, whining about everything.
All right, so it's a lot more like Shazam now, like an actual kid turning into a superhero.
Exactly. Yeah,
Nice.
it is in a Shazam kind of way, and also it also brought in the other heroes as well because I think they appeared in the 80s version as well, but not so prominent. And also like it delved into another series when they had where the ancient race of the Snake Men were awakened and invaded Eternia. So He-Man would everything would change involving a war with the Snake Man, and I think I've got one of the figures of Snake Man, He-Man, as well as 2002 Skeletor. It was a bit of a shame that they straight up cancelled it afterwards because I believe I read into that if they made another series to it, they would eventually bring in She-Ra.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, they never got to her. Huh.
Yeah, a bit of a shame, really. I suppose what I like about He-Man is I think it might have been one of the reasons that got me into the Legend of Zelda games because it has that epic fantasy, power fantasy to it. Like you could see like Link as He-Man, Ganon as Skeletor, and the power sword of Grayskull as the Master Sword, and it was kind of done like in that Zelda cartoon series a bit because like the power of Grayskull was like the two Triforce. I mean, the power of Grayskull is like the Triforce.
Yeah, I guess you could look at it that way. Although I wish Ganondorf had as much personality as Skeletor had.
I think he kind of did in the 80s cartoon series where like he with the pig face and he was like that kind of thing because all 80s villains were a bit like that. I also
Yeah, pretty
noticed a bit of a trend in 80s cartoons that the villains would have a scary undead look to them to make them look more frightening to the kiddies. Like Skeletor was a skeleton, Thundercats had Mum-Ra the Ever Living, and Bravestar had Tex Hex who looked like a zombie.
Yeah, 80s cartoons did have a very specific look and philosophy behind them. It's very noticeable, yeah. Especially compared to the 90s that are completely crazy and go all over the place. I mean, the Tick, Earthworm Jim, it is going nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going off track now.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the movie. It was typical like a fish out of water story where heroes and villains from another world come to Earth to fight over an object that was there, and human characters get involved that have way too much screen time. But I thought it was okay for the most part. I most remember like the 80s synth music to it. And also Skeletor, that version of Skeletor when it was all right because they kind of made him a bit more imposing with a very deep voice, and at the very end he gains all these godlike powers, and then you got this epic scene of like He-Man taking the sword back and taking on Skeletor.
Yeah, the movie always kind of looked interesting to me. I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks they went into the real world as usual, but yeah, had to save up
Yeah,
budget.
yeah.
Yeah,
When you
Dolph
look,
Lundgren looks great. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, when you look at the Thor movies from the MCU cinematic universe, it's kind of like how I wanted a He-Man movie to be like, because Asgard itself looks like Eternia, and the third movie, which is like something straight out of Flash Gordon, has that 80s aesthetic to it, and I feel like with that aesthetic, they could very easily make a He-Man movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, with that sense of humor to it, that would be great.
Hmm. Okay, I think we could talk about the Netflix series. I thought it was okay, but there were parts of it that was like really really boring. I mean, I can understand what they're trying to go for. I mean, the beginning bit was brilliant with like He-Man coming in to save Castle Grayskull, but they decided to subvert expectations to see what would happen if they take He-Man and Skeletor out of the equation and make Teela the main character, but they made her so boring. Like, and also like, oh, when everyone found out that He-Man and Adam were the same person, they started bitching and moaning about it. And Teela's like, well, screw all of you, I'm going away, and screw you. But
Yeah, it's a shame because I love that concept technically. Like, take a hero and a main villain out of it because sometimes side characters are much more moldable, much more like usable in other directions. You can have much more freedom and movement. While heroes and villains are always kind of set in tone. Like the hero needs to be the hero, the villain needs to be the villain. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a shame they didn't have anything interesting to do with them. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. I mean, they did give some character development to certain characters, like Cringer, who was a bit whiny in the first episode, started to try to talk some sense into Teela. Like he's actually overcoming his fears to get a word out to her, and Orko is acting a lot more serious because like he didn't have much confidence in himself and his own magic, but he bonds with Evil Lyn, who wants to help the main characters because the magic of Eternia is dying, and he sacrifices himself, which I thought was a bit sad, really, because I kind of like Orko, to be honest. So
Yeah.
it's kind of fun, like, oh, let's take these characters and just kill them off.
Yeah, they were very happy to throw them under a bus, indeed. That's always a shame.
Yeah, and
think-
also.
I think he
Yeah,
did
go
that
on.
on purpose because he said something like Kevin Smith, the writer, said something like Orko's very unpopular, so I'm going to deliberately make him as likable as possible and then kill him just to spite the audience, I guess.
Oh yeah, about Kevin Smith. He said apparently he was accused of lying about the show to hide its spoilers because it was so like, oh no, He-Man has a very big part in it. Don't worry about it. All the things about it are not true. But then you watch the series and it is true, and they're calling out Kevin Smith about it.
I feel kind of sorry for him. I can so totally imagine him thinking, "Oh, I gotta have this big plot twist. And suddenly He-Man's gonna die, and everyone's gonna be shocked. And oh, there's this epic twist nobody sees coming. And then as soon as they like reveal the Netflix remake coming, like everyone like immediately in the most negative, cynical way, like, oh, let me guess, He-Man dies and his girlfriend takes over. You get to totally see Kevin Smith like, ah, that's my big twist. Everyone already predicted it, and everyone's
because-
already negative about it. Yeah, go ahead.
It was pretty much like a recurring theme at the moment. Like, in my opinion, what they've done with this show, they pulled a Terminator Dark Fate on it, where they kill off the prominent male character and put in a female lead instead to replace him.
Yeah, it's a very popular, trendy thing to do now. Yeah, that's kind of the problem with today's media. It's all postmodern and subversive and deconstructive. But yeah, I knew it was coming. We can't have any genuine, cheesy stuff anymore, or masculine action. Everything has to be deconstructed and self-aware and all that, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, why can't we just have a typical cartoon adventure with He-Man? I mean, Man-at-Arms had a chance to come in, but Teela's like, no, you go over to Castle Grayskull. Well, you can have random cameos in future episodes. And he's like, oh, okay. And also, I don't know what happened to the other characters, like Mechanic, Ram Man, Stratos, Buzz Off, all those other characters. They all disappeared somewhere. So I'm just hoping they'll turn up in like part 2.
Probably, or they're all killed off. Who knows? But
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, and it was. And also, it was a bit of a twist ending. So this is a bit of a spoiler. They go into this afterlife place where they meet up with Adam, and they bring him back. They think, oh, everything's gonna be all right again. We're finally gonna get back He-Man, only to have Skeletor resurrect and kill him. And then, as he found out how to work the secrets of Grayskull, he takes the Power Sword and takes over the world. The end.
Oh, that's an epic cliffhanger, if any, if not.
But in a way, it harkens to the movie where Skeletor manages to take the powers of Grayskull for himself.
That's true,
and also, I have to commend Mark Hamill's performance. Like, you think, oh, he's gonna try and emulate Skeletor, but no, he tries to use his Joker voice instead.
Ah, that works too, I guess. I mean, everyone loves that voice. I mean, he kind of sounds like that as Majima and Yakuza as well. That was well received. Got a skill, you use it.
Yeah, so I didn't find it that bad, but it was pretty boring, and so I'm hoping it gets improved upon in part 2. I kind of even joked about like what would happen if Netflix or Kevin Smith wrote IMP, where Roger gets killed off by Santa. Megalith gets all bitchy and becomes like, oh, I'll do my own way. Becomes all buff and really boring. All the colours and all the fun all gets drained out. All the other heroes, they smeg off somewhere. And it gets really depressing as it goes on.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? And where would Dowmeister be, your creation? What is the dark version of him?
Oh, I forgot to mention, like, in the Netflix series, like, Triclops has this sinister Warhammer-like cult going on where they were drinking this robot juice and they become, like, hideous, mutated cyborgs. So maybe the Dowmeister could start his own bakery-like cult where they drink this yeast that they become disfigured, half-human, half-red-like creatures. Like, your arm turns into pastry and you become like half a gingerbread man or something.
For the listeners not knowing, IMP is a cartoon series I make for myself. Just more of my original series. And Luke made a villain for me, like a chef who hates people eating his own pastries. So it's a weird irony to it.
He's basically like a bakery and a mad scientist who wants to make these evil creations out of pastry.
Exactly. To avenge all his fallen brethren. Literally brethren. And then I never figured out that pun.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty much all I covered on He-Man, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. I guess we had a decent talk about it. I mean, you haven't played the video games yet, I understood.
There were very few He-Man video games, to be honest. I know there were some on the Atari, and I think there was like this phone tappers game or something. And of course, there's the PS2 He-Man game based on the 2002 version, which I might try out if I ever get one of the major PlayStations or an emulator. But I could see, as I go back to the Netflix series, I could see it like a alternate timeline What If series, because I read this comic called Masters of the Multiverse, which it's the crossover between all these various versions of He-Man, and all they have to come together to stop this evil He-Man who is killing all the He-Men and steal all their power swords. And the main character is a version of Keldor who aka an alternate version of Skeletor, who is actually really nice.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, the comics love that sort of plot. So yeah, sure, that's always the best way to look at it, a what-if story. I mean, I already understood that the Netflix series kind of broke a couple lore rules of the other shows, so it already kind of makes itself separate from the other incarnations of He-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of makes it awkward. It's immediately a deconstruction because it didn't set its own identity first. Kind of the same problem with Sonic Boom, where it's already making fun of, already flipping its own setting upside down before even establishing its setting. But well.
It just feels like fanfic material, if you ask me.
Yeah, I guess in a way that's one way to look at it. But very well animated fanfic. I love the art style. Very impressive.
Oh yeah, and
art
the
style.
music was brilliant as well. I can't keep one of the themes out of my head.
Yeah, so at least that's still good. Too bad it's wasted on fanfic then. But yeah, I haven't seen it, so I can't make an opinion about it. Okay, I guess that completes our talk about He-Man. I guess I wanted to talk about Spark the Electric Jester. Speaking of fanfics, a bit of a fan reimagination of Sonic combined with Kirby. Luke, I don't know if you want to join or listen to me babble on about it.
No, listen. I would say I can understand bits about Spark.
All right, you played any of the games?
Nope.
All right, so it's me carrying everything, just like with He-Man. That's great. So yeah, it's made by Lake Feppert. Oh my goodness, names. And he's very productive. I'm very impressed by him. He just keeps knocking out one game after another. So eventually, he always liked to insert like Kirby stuff in his Sonic fan games. So makes sense. Eventually, he made his own game, Spark. Mixture of Sonic with the Kirby powers and more focus on combat. I wanted to talk about it before, but for some reason the series never really worked for me, or there was something off about it, and I never could put down why. Because it's a series I want to praise because it does a lot of things right, so I didn't want it to sound too cynical about it. But yeah, now a third game is coming out, and that finally really has me impressed. So I feel a little more confident talking about it because I can at least end on a better note this time. Yeah, it's. I mean, there's two games out at this point: a 2D one and a 3D one.
And maybe you can explain the story a little bit. Like, who is Spark? What's his purpose?
Ooh, now you're immediately asking me to start a big rant because that's a bit of a problem. That's one of my issues I have, kind of. It has very much of a tonal problem, especially Spark. I mean, when you look at him, he looks like a Kirby character. He's all smiley. He's very simple, colorful design. He's yellow. He's a little Ant-Man. So he's supposed to resemble like a kiddie cartoon hero, but the story he's put into is much more Metal Gear Solid Mega Man X style. It's very somber and introspective. It's all about betrayals and terrorists and attacks and kind of Mega Man X-ish, robots revolting against their creators.
Oh.
And on top of that, it also has this very juvenile sense of humor where one character has an obsession with butts. And so there's very much of a style clash, and it never really comes together. And as a result, I don't even know what Spark's personality is supposed to be because he looks so happy, yet every single time you see him, he looks miserable. And every time he talks, he's always like, oh, whatever, man. Whatever. Oh, I'm so bored. Whatever. He's always that attitude. And then when you beat a level, he's all smiley again. Yay, look at me. I'm a video game man. And it's so clashing with each other. It's funny almost. Especially because he's supposed to be a clown, right? He's a jester. And yet he never makes jokes. Like, there's very often a situation where he comes into a situation that could be funny. Like, he's infiltrating a terrorist base. But then there's like a little pipsqueak, like a half-finished robot who's pretending he's the leader of the terrorists, while he's clearly lying. So you'd think Spark will play with that or kind of mock him, but instead he's just like, whatever.
So he's basically like a depressed clown then.
I guess so, yeah. A very depressed, cynical
I can imagine him going on a talk show and getting a gun out and shooting the host.
Well, he's supposed to be an actual performing clown, so I would love to see his performances. Maybe he's kind of like Krusty the Clown, where
this is what you freaking deserve.
Exactly. Ooh, that's a very dark Joker, yeah. But neat. When the camera's on, he's all happy and cheerful, and then camera's off, like instantly, like starts smoking a cigar and all or stuff, like he's really grumpy. But yeah, unfortunately, we never see him as a jester. I'm kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, he's a bit of a cynical clown, and not even in a funny way. Like, he's stuck in the desert at some point and complaining about it, but he isn't even, like, complaining about it jokingly. It's like, oh, I'm stuck in this giant, overgrown kitty litter. Oh, there's so much sand in my shoes, I can build a second pair of shoes out of it or something. Like, what do you expect how you expect a funny clown to complain about these things? No, he's just normal. It's like, it's hot, there's sand, I'm angry. It's very flat dialogue, so it's really weird.
Oh, right.
Say, Especially because I think the manual says he's graduated from Clown University. It's like, well, they didn't they didn't teach you very well. But it's such a wasted opportunity because he has like a dark evil twin, like a Shadow the Hedgehog kind of character, and he's supposed to be like a better version of Spark. So he's supposed to be this evil, clown with this superiority complex. Like, oh, I'm a superior jester than you. I'm a superior clown. So that would lend to a funny scene, right? You think like, oh, they're gonna have like a clown competition, like throwing pies at each other or something. But no, it just becomes a normal Dragon Ball Z fight. That is absolutely not clown themed at all. So I'm really confused why they go for that theme. They're not really doing anything with it.
Yeah, they could have gone the spy versus spy route with the two clowns trying to out-clown each other.
Exactly, that would be funny. But alas, no. So it has so much comedy potential. Maybe we should make a parody out of it because I mean, like I said, Spark already has like a doppelganger, this evil Shadow Metal Sonic kind of clone. But then the sequel game is starring that character, but then in that game he also has an evil twin of his own. So now the dark version of the hero has another darker version of himself.
Oh, kind of like Eggman Naga.
Pretty much, exactly, yeah. But then it gets even better because then you learn that evil version has an entire army of other evil versions on top of that. And then you learn the main villain is also a dark evil version of that dark version. So it just keeps building onto it, like even more darker version of the already darker version.
And I thought Kingdom Hearts had very confusing dark versions of themselves.
Exactly. Oh yes, very Kingdom Hearts-esque almost. Yes.
So you have a nobody of a nobody of a heartless of a nobody.
Pretty much, yes. So it feels like there should be a parody or something, but it never quite goes that route. I guess they're just waiting for me to make a parody out of it.
Right.
In the game you have like a professor who's building these robots, like the Dr. Light from Mega Man kind of. But then he has a computer made, and then he builds a robot to protect that computer. But then that robot has that typical robot thing of, I need to protect this, and the only way to protect it is by destroying the entire Earth and killing all humans, because all humans aren't trustworthy. Well, not humans, there's not humans in this game, but the people. So that's the main villain. But then, as a plot twist at the end of the second game, you learn that computer has the exact same glitch, and that computer in and on itself is independently also thinking, hey, I need to destroy all human beings because that's the only way to keep safety. So that's twice in a row the professor did the same problem. So now I'm just imagining every invention he makes has that glitch. Like he's just building a new coffee machine, and a coffee machine wants to destroy the whole world. And like even the science project he made as a 5-year-old kid at elementary school is how trying to destroy the world.
Yeah, that's the problem with like science.
Exactly. Like all robots
it's like a Black Mirror episode on itself.
Exactly. Like every piece of science always comes to the same conclusion. We need to kill all humans.
Like, what if Skynet was created because he made a toaster or something?
Exactly. That would be funny. So, this game is so close to being a parody, and yet never quite gets at that point. It's almost like they're taunting me. But yeah, it's a great game. I love the art style. Again, it's clearly based on Mega Man and Sonic, but yet it has its own unique flair to it, which I enjoy. It's kind of abstract, but also has little gritty details. And I was reading its manual, and it has like insane thought put into it, because there's like a lot of world building that doesn't even come up in the game. Like that the people living on that planet actually didn't come from that planet, but are from a different doomed planet, and then moved on top of a different civilization on a different planet, and which again is completely irrelevant to the story. It's just a little detail, but then you look in the background and there's like a lot of little details. Like you see a lot of like internet radio towers who are apparently like trying to send signals into space to find the original planet back or something. Like there's so much weird lore going on. It's kind of refreshing, because usually these games are very simple stories, but it does make itself very complicated. One detail I liked is that they don't know the name of the planet, because every single time they looked into the history, they saw that the planet had a different name, because they weren't familiar with the concept of different languages. So they thought that every language is just a different name. That confuses people. Like a fun little like science fiction detail I liked.
Okay.
Yeah. What else to say about it? It's the color scheme is a bit weird, very Earth-like, very toned-down, washed-out color. So most of the time, the levels are kind of boring-looking. But sometimes they make levels based on Sonic levels, and then all of a sudden the colors do pop. Like the final stage, it's basically Sonic Unleashed opening if it was a playable level.
All right.
But as a result, it kind of creates like a weird story where the planet you live on, that's supposed to be this bright, happy place, is all like Earth-like and kind of boring looking, and then the evil villain's base is all popping and cheerful looking. I don't think that was intended, but oh well. But yeah, Sparkster, the first two
Yeah,
games.
it sounds like a very fun game series. I might check it out at some point.
Sure. I'll recommend it. Especially the third one looks very interesting. I keep calling it Sparkster, but that's a different series. That's Rocket Knight from the Genesis. Spark.
Oh yeah, after yeah.
It's so annoying, and it already resembles so many Sega Genesis heroes. Already a little bit of Rystar and Sonic in them, and then he gets the name of Spark, and then you also have different heroes, Sparks, so I keep confusing the two. My apology. I like the third one more because it kind of makes more of an effort to make it more arcade style-y, I think. Because well, it's kind of, maybe I shouldn't say it like this. I kind of have to script it down, I think. My thoughts are too complicated to quickly whip it out. But yeah, I recommend it.
That's good.
I'll keep it at that. Maybe I'll go more in depth in a separate video. Alrighty, guess that finished our conversation. This kind of short this time, and only the two of us. How a classic Dissected all of a sudden.
Yeah, I could like talk about some things. I don't know if like Melting Man might have already stated it, but as he's not here, I might as well say it that our spin-off series, Give Me Chaos Theories, is going to get cancelled because he didn't have much fun planning up scripts for it. But you know, it's been a fun ride.
Oh, fair enough. And he's still making videos, but yeah, sometimes you just run out of gas. I mean,
yeah. And he also has a bigger presence on these streams now.
And that's true, so he gets more thoughts across here. But then again, I'm sure he wants videos for his own channel. So now I'm taking away all his audience. That's no good.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I've just got a new voiceover role. Earlier this year, I was part of this this animation project called Fashion Police, made by Dexter Gethood on Newgrounds, which had a very surreal street art, graffiti street art look to it, which talks about like fashion statements and fashion norms. And I play this like fashion reality person. And I've got a message from him to do this voice for the part 3, which he will be working on.
Nice street art. I love that. So kind of Jet Set Radio-esque or something.
Yeah, it does have that Jet Set Radio look to it. So if you've got a chance, go on Newgrounds and look up Dexter Get Hood, and it should be Fashion Police. And I'm in part 2.
Fashion Police, all right. So what kind of character do you play? Like
as I said, there's this like really scary robot dude called Cover or something who wants to make the people only wear certain clothes, and I play this like reality check commander person who has this very nervous voice to him, acting like kind of an underling kind of way, like, so oh no, we must fight us, we have to fight them or something. And in the third part, I think it's supposed to be the same character, where I play a scientist kind of character, trying to help the good guys, because at the end, all the bad guys they join the good guys and they become good guys.
Oh, just like Kingdom Hearts. How
yes,
wholesome.
exactly.
We keep making those parallels here. All right. Well, good to hear that you're still getting a lot of voiceovers, especially since I haven't asked you for a while.
Yeah. I'm still part of these ongoing projects like Glide the Dragon to game, this Sonic Villains Q&A thing, and also I'm going to be voicing in a animatronic dark ride called Kooky Trails.
Like an actual dark ride being built.
Yes, it's sort of like a fan-made ride, but it's going to be done like an actual ride. You see, one of my friends got a voice role in for that, and I thought, oh, it'd be cool if I can get involved too, as I know both this person and one of the people working on the project. So I tried to contact them, see if I get an audition in, They thought they found a role for me, and I tried it out, and they liked it so much I got the part.
Sweet. So they're building it in their backyard, or how?
No, it's going to be in California. I think it's going to be in somewhere around this theme park called Knott's Berry Farm or something.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it looks. From the looks of the photos, it's going to be quite impressive.
Well, cool. I hope you get a ticket to California to check it out in person.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, that's kind of typical, huh? In America, that they have all these theme parks together, and then there's all like smaller theme parks close by. I mean, I was in Orlando 2 years ago, and of course you have Universal and Disneyland, but there's also in the same neighborhood a lot of like cheaper alternative theme park for, I guess, for people with a lower budget. Like there was a Bible themed one, for example. I almost wanted to go there just for fun, but didn't have the time.
when I was a kid, we had at my local seafront, we have the small theme park, Adventure Island, which back then was called Peter Pan's Playground, and we got one of its attractions was this giant dome called the Fantasy Dome, which has all these animatronics of dragons and giants and things, and in one area it was all North Pole themed, and we got these little animatronic Eskimos singing "Summer Holiday" by Cliff Richard.
Okay. Oh, man, every single time I think of Cliff Richard is only because of the Young Ones, a parody of one of their songs.
Yes. Which ended in a very funny joke at the end where they say, "Look out, Cliff!" and they hit a billboard of Cliff Richard on it.
The Young Ones. Good show. Too bad it's so short. Your British show are always so short, even when they're successful. So weird.
I mean, like, we have TV series, sitcoms that only last 6 episodes because we thought that 6 weeks are a very long time, so we tried to put one episode out a week. I mean, there are some sitcoms that go on for a very long time. I mean, we had one called Last of the Summer Why, which has all these juvenile old people. And also we've got Red Dwarf, which is somewhat still going on to this very day.
Yeah, that one just refuses to die despite all his problems. But on the other hand, you also have, like, I'm so surprised Mr. Bean is so short. It's so popular and all over the place, yet there's only like 15 episodes or so.
Yeah, because what they've done is it's kind of like different skits, which is probably, and our brains probably interpret them as different episodes.
Yeah, I guess so. And of course, John Cleese's Faulty Towers also only had 6 episodes or so. It's super short.
Yeah, across 2 seasons.
Yeah. So completely different than American sitcoms. Oh well. I mean, it's one way to keep it sharp and fresh and top quality at least. Make a show too long and eventually gonna lose that quality.
Oh yeah, because there are some American shows that go on for way too long. I mean, there was this show called Once Upon a Time, which started off in a couple of seasons, but then it just dragged on and on. They started dragging in all these Disney properties, like, oh, let's have live action versions of Elsa and that Scottish woman or something.
Okay, that sounds lame. Yeah.
Yeah, and also you've got like The Walking Dead, which is like 11 seasons long.
Yeah, that keeps on forever. But then again, they keep killing all the main characters, replacing them or something, right? So I guess
that's how they keep it going.
That's one way to do it. Oh, then again, hey, you're doing the same with Doctor Who. You keep killing him off and replacing him as well. So
with James Bond by replacing the actor every few years.
Yeah, you love doing that. So there you go. Oh well, ever wonder on tricks to keep it going. Yeah. Awkward silence. So, we finished talking then, I guess.
I suppose we could talk about what's going to be happening with the streams for the next couple of weeks.
So, the next stream in 2 weeks, when I uploaded this, you're going to be in Cornwall. Yep. And I'm going to be on vacation right when our listeners listen to this episode. Yep, it's vacation time, so things happen. So that's why we have a bit of filler episodes. So I hope they're still entertaining enough.
Exactly.
And after that, we'll pick up where we should have left off. I mean, it's kind of awkward to leave IDW leaving so long because it's such an intense cliffhanger-y moment, but oh well.
Yeah, and I still got my my blog video to work on and all that.
Yep, always work to do. I have plenty of Sonic cartoons to make. Man, I have to make a Sonic Colors animation in time for Ultimate's release. That or
I suppose it's kind of ironic because that could be seen as an Ultimate remake of that Sonic Colors animation you once did.
Yeah, maybe I'm gonna do that. But I always wanted to remake that one because I was never happy about that cartoon. I kind of rushed it off.
Yeah, it did feel a bit rushed at points.
Maybe I kind of do a bit of both. It's gonna be a little remake and add a couple extra details to make it work better.
Yeah.
We'll see how much time I have. I need to finish Sonic & Knuckles first. I don't want to go back to IMP. It's been too long, but I still have a couple of Sonic projects to work through first.
Mm-hmm. You do what you can, mate.
Yep. So much stuff we want to do, so little time. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I guess this is it. So, I hope you enjoyed the stream, and see you all guys next time. See ya. And Luke, thanks for joining me.
Of course.
And it was nice to talk about silly stuff today.